The screen door slammed behind me like a judge's gavel, sealing off the only home I'd ever known in one brutal swing. "You're no son of mine anymore, Cole. Not with that filth in your soul." Mom's voice cracked through the humid Alabama night, her Bible clutched like a shield against the monster she just birthed in her own kitchen. I stood there on the gravel driveway, 18 and gutted, watching taillights fade as my stepdad drove away without a backward glance, leaving me with nothing but a duffel bag and the echo of her sobs turning to prayers for my damnation. That was 15 years ago, back when mobile felt like the center of the universe. A sticky, Bible Belt trap of fried catfish suppers and Sunday sermons that branded you before you could blink. I'd known I was gay since I was 12, stealing glances at the lifeguards down at Dauphin Island while the rest of the youth group splashed around. Oblivious. But saying it out loud? That was suicide in a family where faith wasn't just belief. It was the air we breathed, thick with the scent of magnolias and judgment. Dad had died when I was 10, heart attack, they said, but I always figured it was the weight of Mom's expectations that did him in. She remarried quick to Brother Harlan, a deacon with a mustache like a broom and eyes that drilled for sin. They built their world around the First Baptist Church, and I was the perfect prop. Altar boy, youth choir soloist, the kid who memorized psalms like they were baseball stats. Coming out wasn't planned. It exploded one Tuesday after school, Harlan catching me with that dog-eared copy of Giovanni's Room tucked in my backpack. He waved it like evidence in a trial, his face purple as he dragged me to the kitchen table. Mom was there, apron dusted with flour from peach cobbler, her hands trembling as I spilled it all. The crushes, the dreams of a life where I didn't have to hide. She didn't scream at first. She just stared, like I'd confessed to setting the church on fire. Then the verses started. Leviticus, Romans, the fire and brimstone greatest hits. "The Lord don't make mistakes, Cole, but the devil sure twists 'em," she whispered, tears carving tracks through her makeup. Harlan nodded, all righteous thunder, but it was her words that hollowed me out. By dawn, I was packed and gone, hitchhiking north with $20 and a knot in my throat that hasn't fully untied. Chicago swallowed me whole that first winter. Wind off Lake Michigan biting like it had a grudge, skyscrapers looming like judgmental giants. I crashed on a buddy's couch from high school who'd escaped to art school, waitress tables at a dive in Wrigleyville until my feet bled, then landed a gig at a small marketing firm in the Loop. It was grunt work, pitching ad copy for car dealerships, nursing hangovers from cheap gin at underground gay bars where the music thumped loud enough to drown the homesickness. That's where I met Wesley. He was leaning against the bar at Berlin one sticky July night, all lean muscle and easy grin, nursing a whiskey sour like it was fine wine. 25 to my 20, with freckles across his nose from too many summers in Wisconsin and eyes the color of storm-tossed waves. "You look like you could use a dance partner who doesn't step on your toes," he said, extending a hand scarred from carpentry work, his day job fixing up old brownstones in Lincoln Park. We moved to the floor like we'd rehearsed it, bodies sinking to some pulsing remix of an old Madonna track, and for the first time since Alabama, I felt seen. Not pitted, not preached at, seen. Wes was the son of Lutheran farmers, out since 16, with a laugh that could crack open a bad day like a walnut. We took it slow at first, coffee at Intelligentsia, walks along the lakefront where the city lights danced on the water like fireflies on steroids. He taught me how to swing a hammer without smashing my thumb, and I showed him how to craft a pitch that could sell ice to Eskimos. Love crept in quiet, the kind that builds like a skyline. One date turning into weekends tangled in his tiny apartment off Belmont, whispering dreams over takeout Thai. "You're my anchor, Cole," he'd murmur, fingers tracing the tattoo I'd gotten on my ribcage. A compass rose, pointing forever north. We fought, sure, about money when bills piled up, about my walls when Alabama ghosts knocked too loud, but we always circled back, stronger. By year 5, we'd clawed our way up. I jumped ship to a boutique agency specializing in queer-owned brands, landing clients like a leather goods startup in Pilsen and a nonprofit pushing marriage equality. Wes started his own crew, flipping Victorians into cozy nests for young families fleeing the suburbs. We bought a place in Andersonville, a 2-flat with creaky oak floors and a backyard big enough for a fire pit. Pride weekends became our ritual. Rainbow flags waving from the stoop, brunches with mimosas and stories from the march. Life wasn't perfect. Wes wanted kids, adoption papers gathering dust while I wrestled the old fears. But it was ours, brick by American brick. Then the letter came, postmarked from Mobile, the envelope thin as regret. It was a Tuesday, rain sluicing the windows like it knew what was coming. Wes was at a job site in Evanston. I was nursing black coffee, scrolling client emails, when the mail slot clattered. Mom's handwriting, loopy, faded, hit me like a sucker punch. "My dearest Cole," it started, the words spilling out in a torrent of scripture and sorrow. Harlan had died 2 years back. Cancer, aggressive, the kind that eats you from the inside. The church pension dried up, medical bills like shackles. She was alone now, rattling around that old house on Dauphin Street, the one Dad built with his own hands. "I've prayed every night for forgiveness, son. The Lord showed me my sin in turning you away. Come home. Let me make it right." I read it 3 times, heart hammering like a jackhammer. Forgiveness? After the silence, the holidays I spent alone with store-bought turkey. The way she'd skipped my college graduation because it wasn't God's plan? Wes found me there an hour later, curled on the couch, letter crumpled in my fist. He didn't pry, just wrapped me up, his chin on my shoulder. "What do you want to do, babe?" he asked, voice steady as Lake Michigan in summer. I didn't know. Part of me wanted to burn it, scatter the ashes over the magnolias. Another part, the boy who'd once believed in her prayers, ached for the woman who used to sing me Amazing Grace with a voice like honey. We flew down a week later, economy seats squeezing us close, Wes's hand in mine the whole way. Mobile hadn't changed. Spanish moss dripping from live oaks like lazy tears, the air thick with salt and seafood shacks. The house looked smaller, sadder. Peeling blue paint, the porch swing creaking in the breeze like a widow's lament. Mom answered the door in a house dress, thinner than I remembered, gray streaking her bun. Her eyes, though, those wide hazel pools, locked on mine, and she crumpled right there on the welcome mat, sobs racking her like a storm. "Cole. Oh God, Cole," she gasped, arms reaching like she'd fall without them. I froze, the years flashing. Her face at the door that night, Bible raised. The Christmas cards that stopped after year 3. The voicemail from Aunt Rita saying, "She's praying for you, honey, but it's hard." Wes hung back by the rental car, giving space, his nod the only anchor I had. I knelt, awkward as a stranger, and let her cling. She smelled of lavender soap and regret, her hands papery on my back. Inside, over weak tea and saltines, the only thing her stomach could handle anymore, the story poured out. Harlan's illness had bankrupted them. The church elders, those pious hypocrites, turned away when the collections plate ran dry. "They said it was God's test," she whispered, eyes downcast. "But it was mine. For what I did to you." The betrayal stung fresh. Not just the disowning, but the lie she'd lived, preaching love while wielding exclusion like a whip. And the money? It slipped in sideways, casual as humidity. Just enough to fix the roof, pay the back taxes. I wouldn't ask if. She trailed off, tears pooling again. I wanted to rage, to demand why now, why not when I was scraping by on ramen and rejection. But looking at her, frail, faith-fractured, I saw the wreckage of her own making. The church had been her fortress, but it crumbled under the weight of its own intolerance, leaving her exposed. "I was scared, Cole," she admitted, voice breaking. "Scared of what folks would say, scared I'd lose you to that life. But I lost you anyway. And now, the devil's in the details, the bills, the loneliness. Forgive me, son. Please." Wes joined us then, sliding into the chair beside me, his presence a quiet revolution. Mom eyed him warily at first, Wesley's flannel shirt and calloused hands screaming outsider. But he smiled, soft as dawn, and offered, "Ma'am, I've heard a lot about your peach cobbler. Any chance we could rustle some up? Cole's been craving it." It was a bridge, small but sturdy, and she nodded, rising with a ghost of a smile. In the kitchen, flour dusting the air like old memories, we talked. Not easy, not healed, but real. I told her about the agency, the campaigns for kids like me, the ones still hiding in Bible belts across America. Wes shared stories of our place in Chicago, the garden we planted last spring. Tomatoes fat as softballs, basil that perfumed the whole block. She listened, really listened, her fingers kneading dough like penance. The climax hit that night, after supper, when thunder rolled in from the gulf like divine applause. We sat on the porch, rain drumming the tin roof, and I laid it bare. You shut me out, Mom. Not just the door, the whole damn world. Faith, that was your excuse, but it was fear, and it cost us everything. Tears mixed with rain on her cheeks as she gripped my hand. I know, baby, I know, but grace is not earned. It's given. The betrayal hung there, raw as an open wound, but so did the love, the stubborn, humanistic thread that refuses to snap. I wrote the check for the roof, the taxes, more besides. Not for absolution, but for the boy I'd been, the mother she could still be. We left at dawn, hugs fierce and fleeting, promises to call scribbled on napkins. Back in Chicago, Wes pulled me close in our kitchen, the city humming beyond the windows. You did good, Anchor, he murmured, and I believed him. Mom's letters come steady now, postcards from church potlucks, clippings of pride stories in the local paper. Forgiveness isn't a fairy tale. It's a choice, messy as southern rain, profound as a shared silence. We've got our life, Wes and me. Love that's fought for, not found. And in the quiet hours, when doubt whispers, I remember. Humanity isn't in the shutting out. It's in the opening, one cracked door at a time.